A convicted rapist is accused of terrorizing his victim from his prison cell.
Every year, every 2 years, every so often, she gets re-victimized by this defendant because he just won't give up.
And now the prosecutors who put him behind bars are breaking their silence, speaking only to 9 investigates out of frustration. And they believe a dangerous felon is using a cell phone and fake social media accounts from a prison in the Panhandle.
That's right, a phone in prison, cell phone. Investigative reporter Darlene Jones first started questioning the Department of Corrections about this case 3 weeks ago. After spending months reviewing the case, Darlene joins us live in the studio. And Darlene, prosecutors call this a public safety failure.
Greg, one of the most bizarre stories I have ever reported on. They provided us with proof. They sounded the alarm to the State Department of Corrections months ago. It wasn't until we started asking tough questions that they heard from the Inspector General's office, which now confirms it's investigating.
Julia Lynch is a lead prosecutor overseeing thousands of sex crimes and child abuse cases in Brevard County. But there is one file she has to keep opening, even though the defendant, Christopher Wood, was convicted of rape and kidnapping 10 years ago and is now serving 50 years at Jefferson Correctional Institute. Wood tying up court time with a new motion he filed this summer, claiming he has new evidence in the case, a witness who was never interviewed.
We realized that this was something that was made up once again.
Prosecutors believe it's part of his effort to continue terrorizing his victim, but their research uncovering an even bigger problem in state prison.
I'm amazed that he's able to have a cell phone.
It was a frantic call from the victim tipping them off, describing a string of disturbing Facebook messages.
She and her daughters had been receiving messages from this person who called themselves Lily Smith.
Facebook records show some were sent using a mobile device. It was all detailed in this letter prosecutors sent to the DOC, trying to prove private messages from that Lily Smith account were really sent by Christopher Wood. Another account under Chris Moore uses the photo of a U.S. congressman from Wisconsin who had no idea until we told him. The DOC insisting through this email Wood has no cell phone. Prosecutors got a different story when the DOC finally responded to its letter this month, days after 9 investigates started asking questions and 8 months after the letter was sent.
I said, I want to make sure Christopher Wood, as well as other inmates, don't have a cell phone. And basically it was like, well, good luck, they do.
Even recorded prison calls detailed in that letter haven't been enough. In one, his aunt questions why he's suddenly calling her collect.
You lose your phone?
No, they moved me to a different dorm. Phones are set up a little different down here.
It's enough to force anyone to question why no one answered the call for real action from prosecutors who have dedicated hundreds of hours to one defendant who has already been convicted.
You're giving these guys literally tools or weapons to commit future crimes out there.
They are frustrated. The state's attorney office is further frustrated by the fact they have no jurisdiction over this alleged crime. They tell me it's on the DOC or perhaps the Jefferson County Prosecutor's Office to investigate. The bigger question too, Greg and Martha, is how widespread this cell phone problem really is in our state prisons.
9 investigates uncovered the cell phone problem inside Florida prisons is much bigger than the one case we told you about last night. This is just a wild story. Brevard County prosecutors believe a rape victim is still being terrorized from behind bars with the help of a cell phone in the cell.
And now records show more than 11,000 phones and accessories have made it behind bars this year. As investigative reporter Darlene Jones found out, that's more than 1 phone per week found at every prison in the state.
Convicted rapist Christopher Wood calling his aunt frantic a few months ago from a recorded prison line. He somehow has real-time information his girlfriend is in trouble.
This is an emergency. Sherry's at my dad's house with the police.
It is only one of 16 calls Wood made from the authorized prison line at Jefferson Correctional Institute this year, a drastic change from the hundreds made the last 4 years. It is part of the evidence Brevard County prosecutors have used to try and convince the Department of Corrections he has used a cell phone to terrorize his victim and her children through social media.
Public safety is at risk if these inmates who have nothing but time, nothing but probably bad intentions, and now they have the tool, or I call it the weapon, in their hands. And from there, they can commit any crime, any form of solicitation that they want to, and it goes unchecked.
This week, DOC continued to decline repeated requests for an on-camera interview, but sent us this video as proof it's been a struggle to keep cell phones out. Since 2014, records show 38,000 cell phones and accessories were recovered throughout 151 prisons, increasing each year. Noting, though, it doesn't necessarily equate to criminal activity, but acknowledging it is illegal. They said Wood has never been caught with one, even though Facebook postings show private messages prosecutors have linked to him were sent from a mobile device, and there are more troubling recorded prison calls.
You lose your phone?
No, they moved me to a different dorm. Phones are set up a little different down here.
Just this year, new technology, including X-ray machines, were added at all staff and visitor entrance points at DOC institutions, and a newly created intelligence unit is now examining innovative approaches to keep those phones out, which may be harder than initially thought, considering what the Inspector General revealed about how they're getting in.
He said they come in either through drones, they get snuck in through body cavities.
This prosecutor wants Christopher Wood moved to another institution and placed in a solitary confinement area. We will, of course, keep you posted on the DOC investigation into this case against him. The Department of Corrections has sent a letter to the FCC in support of jamming cell phone signals from state prisons without a court order.
A state prisoner tying up 911 with bogus claims about his girlfriend. It is the latest development in our ongoing investigation exposing illegal cell phones in prisons.
Investigative reporter Darlene Jones learned this is the same inmate Brevard County prosecutors believe has terrorized his rape victim from prison using a cell phone. And today, Darlene, you talked to him on that cell phone and learned of a big new development about an hour ago.
Within the last hour, the Department of Corrections sent me this notification that Christopher Wood was just placed in confinement because we told them about that call. We can't legally let you hear his side of the conversation because we didn't have his permission, but it confirms what Brevard County prosecutors have been trying to tell the DOC and what we first reported 2 weeks ago. I'm a reporter.
It was our second time getting through to Christopher Wood on a cell phone inside Jefferson Correctional Institution in the Florida Panhandle. Frantic for nearly 4 minutes, he tries to figure out how we obtained the number to the cell phone he obviously shares with other inmates.
He probably wants to tell a reporter his story.
Brevard County prosecutors provided 9 investigates with 7 calls to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. They believe Wood made from Jefferson using that same illegal cell phone at least once in the middle of Hurricane Irma.
My wife has had brain surgery. I'm trying to get a kid. Is there any way that you guys can get someone out to the Red Cross Relief Center in Marathon?
Wood making desperate pleas with dispatchers to send deputies on a search for his girlfriend in the Florida Keys, more than 500 miles away. She was never truly missing. Another missing persons call made just 3 weeks ago, according to dispatch reports we obtained, all because his girlfriend wouldn't answer his calls. So far, corresponding DOC records show Wood made no calls from the authorized prison phones on any of the days the 911 calls went out. Listen as he tells the dispatcher exactly who he is, even providing a callback number.
Hey, how do I file a missing persons report?
With us, where are they missing from?
I'm going to have to breach confidentiality to tell you this. This is my girlfriend, and she and I are confidential informants with the DEA and the FBI. I've been doing this for about 20 years, and I know that this is kind of dangerous work. She's never been missing for any length of time. My name is Christopher Wood.
I watched when you called in the newsroom this afternoon. We were all surprised when he answered the phone.
Greg, I have to tell you, I'm sitting at my desk with, like all of you, thinking this can't be real.
But yet you called the number and he answered.
Just crazy. And Darlene, the DOC just requested more money actually to fight contraband.
Yeah, they did. And they also told me within the last hour they are taking this seriously. In fact, calling me minutes ago before I came on the air, making sure I know that they're taking this seriously and that they're working with those detectives in the Florida Keys about those 911 calls. They're also launching an investigation into that. And we should mention that tonight they tell me they still couldn't find that cell phone before they placed Wood in confinement. Definitely interesting.
It's interesting for a couple of other elements, too. It's hard to get cell phone service out of Channel 9, much less a prison.
Well, they have figured it out.
They have. All right. Thank you, Darlene. New details now in an ongoing 9 Investigates report reveals correctional officers are part of the reason inmates have illegal cell phones.
It is a public safety issue that the Brevard County State Attorney believes allowed a convicted rapist to harass his victim from prison. Investigative reporter Darlene Jones learned some officers are smuggling in the phones and selling them.
Yeah, Martha, disturbing. We are still reviewing Department of Corrections reports, but since June, 12 correctional officers have been arrested and charged because they allegedly smuggled multiple cell phones into state prisons. I received emails from several former inmates and even one employee urging us to investigate this. One inmate released last year on a sex crime charge agreed to speak with us.
I have seen with my own eyes.
Former prison inmate Christopher Bryan reached out to 9 Investigates after a series of reports about convicted Brevard County rapist Christopher Wood using an illegal cell phone to harass his victim from prison. It wasn't until we reached Wood on a cell phone last week that the Department of Corrections placed him in confinement, and Wood was transferred to Martin Correctional Institution, 300 miles away from Jefferson Prison.
It's a way for the officers to basically add to what they're making per hour.
9 Investigates reviewed lengthy investigative reports backing up his claims. One officer allegedly caught smuggling in flip phones at Jefferson using a false bottom in her boots, netting over $20,000 from sales of the phones and other contraband. Another report revealing the going rate in prison is $400 apiece for a flat screen phone and $250 for a flip style phone. Estimating one correctional officer delivered 15 phones a week.
This would be a priority discussion.
It is troubling enough. State Senator Dennis Baxley of Lady Lake wants technology capable of scrambling cell phone signals because adding metal detectors hasn't been enough. And he has the power to make it happen as vice chair of the Criminal Justice Committee.
But the huge turnover in personnel makes it very difficult to stay on top of it.
They have given correctional officers a 3% raise, hoping to better retain them. We should mention nearly 40,000 cell phones and accessories have been confiscated just since 2014. A DOC spokesperson stressing most are smuggled through visitors. The Brevard County State Attorney is happy Wood was moved, though disappointed it took our reporting to get action. They are now hoping this curtails his contact with the outside, especially his traumatized rape victim, Martha.